Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you are having a great start to your Saturday morning and weekend. I'm going to do what I always try to do. I'm going to get more consistent with doing a weekend forecast on Saturday mornings and really talk about just what's going on over the weekend. So I'm going to break down the entire country, even you Western U.S. folks. I know I don't talk about you guys much, and that's just because I'm trying to learn your area. I don't want to just show you a bunch of model runs for your area. I want to get in depth about every area I cover. I hate just getting on here, and just showing a model run. So, hey, it might rain at your area. I want to know your area more before I get deeper into that area. I've had a lot of comments saying, you never mention us guys out west, and it's not because I deliberately don't do that. I'm trying to expand this a lot, so I'm going to add y'all into this. But there's a lot going on this weekend. There's a ground blizzard in the upper Midwest. There's an icing event about to get going right now in areas of the Midwest. And there is a potential for maybe ice storm criteria in isolated areas for areas of the upper mid-Atlantic and areas of New England or the Northeast tomorrow morning especially. This could catch a lot of people by surprise. So we're going to talk about that. There's also a risk for severe thunderstorms down south. So we're going to break all that down. As always, if you guys have not subscribed, definitely hit the subscribe button, like the video if you like it. I'm going to start kind of zoning in on what's going on mid to later this month here in my upcoming videos. But also I want to add Twitter, very active. Facebook, very active. TikTok, I just try to throw really quick videos together. And Instagram, which is linked through my Facebook. If you got any of those, definitely if you're on Twitter, which I know a lot of people necessarily aren't, give me a follow on there. I stay active on there, guys. That's a very quick way to get in touch with me and to follow along with the weather. So thank you all for the amazing support, and let's get going here. So this, like I said, this bluish purplish area right here, that's winter weather advisories for mainly freezing drizzle and freezing rain. Up here where you see the reds, that's a blizzard warning, not necessarily for heavy accumulating snow, but really just for a ground blizzard. You got some warnings, winter storm warnings up here, but I tell you what, I will mention early on that the entire western U.S., it'll be a relatively quiet weekend weather-wise. There's going to be an Arctic air mass that's going to start to dip in and affect areas in Montana a little bit later here, where you have definitely some cold weather advisories right here. That's not a thing. I'm just saying cold weather is dropping into the lower 48 for the latter part of the weekend. These winter weather advisories right in here with a little small winter storm watch where it could get a little bit more significant as far as winter weather accumulation just in general. This is for tomorrow, well, tonight into tomorrow for you folks in the Northeast and areas in the Mid-Atlantic, including the far northern tips of Virginia, even areas of West Virginia, the eastern counties, and then Pennsylvania, most of the state. This is where I think the epicenter of the heaviest ice altogether, even between both events right here, between today and tomorrow, is going to be. And I'm going to show you potential ice accumulations for this. I will mention, once you start to get to a quarter-inch or higher of ice, that's when it starts to break tree limbs and it gets really dangerous to drive in. And this rain, which falls at the surface, which is below 32 degrees, it becomes really dangerous when you have temperatures really into the 20s, and this is going to be falling in the 20s, this area. So let's get going here. As far as temperatures for the entire U.S., very cold southeast today. Unless you're in Florida, it's not too bad, especially you in the tropical paradise and southern tip of Florida. It is bitterly cold, especially in Kentucky. You can actually kind of tell where the snowpack is, where you got the more colder looking colors. You're in the single digits in areas of Kentucky. By the way, if you don't know what this site is, this is actually people's personal weather stations. So these are just regular people at their house with weather stations that report to this site. It's called Ambient Weather. This is the weather station that I have. So even my site's reporting to this in this area. I'm just not zoomed in close enough. But you areas in North Carolina, very cold. Virginia is very cold this morning. And this entire area is very cold. This is making the ground very cold. And this will update as I move a little bit. You'll see more stations pop up. But this is basically setting the tone for the ice event tomorrow. You got single digits in Pennsylvania in the teens. This is making the ground very cold. This will allow for ice to accumulate tomorrow in these areas very quickly. Very, very cold air mass up here. It's just a harder winter, guys. It really is. It's a bitterly cold air mass. But you guys are going to get even more colder early next week in the Northeast, by the way. But very cold temperatures right where ice is about to start developing. In fact, you look at the radar in this area, you're not seeing much right now, but you're about to probably start to get a little bit of a light precipitation in areas of St. Louis, and then it's going to march northeast. It's not really popping up now, but within the hour or two here in St. Louis and things, you're going to begin to see some precipitation pop up, and it's going to be in the form of frozen precipitation, liquid frozen, if you know what I mean. So you guys in Illinois, I wish y'all would have some more weather stations to pop up in this area. Maybe, I know this is kind of some out in the middle of nowhere kind of areas in Illinois, but Illinois, I'm sorry. And I know the S is silent. I don't want to bother you folks in Illinois. I mean, they got to just knock the S off. I mean, come on. But anyways, very cold temperatures here. So when y'all get some precipitation and moves in this area, it's going to be icy. And then bitterly cold temperatures in the upper Midwest like there always is in this time of the year. But as far as out west, you guys are nothing too crazy. I mean, it's all elevation and terrain based, meaning you're cold on the mountaintops and then you're a little bit warmer in the valleys. And, you can see the valleys showing up well here. These are temperatures that, are not too crazy compared to average either way, above or below. So, I mean, nothing too crazy going out west. You're going to wake up and you say, okay, well, it feels like this time of the year out here. But let's get going here because we're really deep in this video and really haven't got to the meat of this video. So this is what's going on as a whole over the next 48 hours. We'll get zoned in on each area. Ground blizzard up here, freezing rain popping off late this morning into early this afternoon into Chicago. This will continue to overspread into the Ohio Valley, and then it gets into tomorrow, and then heavier, more widespread frozen precipitation and freezing rain for Pennsylvania, especially central to eastern portions of the state where the cold air is really entrenched with cold air damming. At the same time, you have storms down here. So let's go on a jump and get closer to each area. So this is what I'm talking about the Midwest today. This is around, let's back it up here. This is around 10 a.m. You start to get some light precipitation developing in southern areas of Illinois. This will be in the form of freezing rain. You click a sounding right in here. The reason you have freezing rain is because you have a stout double warm nose where the atmosphere basically, this is the temperature, right? The green, the red area right here, the red line, that is the air temperature. So in the upper areas of the atmosphere, you have a stout warm nose. Heck, even just a couple thousand feet up in the air in these areas, it is above freezing. So that allows any snowflakes to melt into a liquid form. But at the surface, it is, anywhere from 8 to 10 degrees below freezing. So even though it melts into rain liquid form, it freezes at the surface. That's freezing rain. So stout double warm nose in this area. If y'all do hear my kids in these videos, my kids are pretty wild in the mornings, especially this would be considered late morning for our family. 8 a.m. is definitely more so late morning. So I have kids and it happens. I think most people who've been viewing my videos for a while know that. But going through the rest of the morning and the afternoon, freezing rain will continue for areas of Indiana, Illinois, and Chicago. You will see a nice glaze. These areas could see some decent accumulation. And the reason is because you have such basically the surface temperatures in these areas. I mean, right now, you're in the teens, deep into the teens in the whole state of Illinois and Indiana. So with precipitation moving in, I mean, it's going to, anything is going to freeze immediately, especially on these cars and anything that doesn't hold in any kind of heat. So, I mean, it's probably going to be a situation where it's 5 or 10 minutes of drizzle, and then you're going to see a glaze on like cars and things very quickly in these areas. So the roads are going to be nasty. It's not going to be a high-end event, but because it's so cold in these areas and will continue to be. And so, in fact, areas around Chicago and northern Illinois and northern Indiana won't get above freezing really today. And then that mega Arctic air mass starts coming in and reinforces the cold. But as far as ice accumulations for this area, when you start to get 1/10 of an inch of ice, you really start to see it. You start to see the glaze in the trees. But there's certain areas that show a lot more ice, like down here in southern areas of Illinois tries to show, and in Indiana tries to show over a 1/4 inch of ice. I don't know if that's going to verify, but this is a decent glaze showing up here in Indiana, Illinois, portions of southern Michigan, and then showing up in Ohio too. It really is. There's going to be a little bit of a glaze in Missouri too, but I think the bulk of the precipitation doesn't get fired up until after the piece of energy is really moving through. So slippy situation right here today, especially you want to check out the ground blizzard going on here And, you see 30 to 40 knot winds moving into North Dakota. And there's already snow on the ground out here. It never melts normally when it falls this time of the year. It just stays on the ground forever and just blows around everywhere. So ground blizzards, not doesn't mean there's necessarily snow falling. It's just picking up all the snow on the ground and blowing it everywhere. Low visibility, high winds. They mentioned anywhere from 40 to 50 mile per hour winds in these areas in North Dakota. That's why you got blizzard warnings for a ground blizzard. So be careful out there today. This will continue throughout the day and really amplify later today. So, winds will probably settle down in that area overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. But definitely be careful in that area. As far as the stormy part of the storm today, there's a marginal risk. There is a tornado risk, a 2% chance. It's a low-end risk. But I will mention, you look at the HRRR model, they're showing some discrete, nasty-looking cells today as we're getting into the early afternoon hours, maybe 1 p.m. Central Standard Time in these areas. You got some kind of a moist flow, a little bit of a moist sector setting up here, and some of these storms can be rotating. Some of them can produce a little bit of hail and some damaging winds, especially in and around Houston points east. So be careful in these areas today. This moisture will be moving more so south to north. So, they can produce a little bit of heavy rain. Areas of Louisiana too, watch out. You could see maybe a brief tornado warning in these areas down here, and it continues throughout the night, and then the system begins to get more amplified as it kind of the cold front begins to push the energy more east. But out west today, it's quiet. There's some mountain snow in Denver. In the mountains of Colorado and the Rockies, southern Wyoming, maybe areas of Utah. There's a little bit of system that tries to move in here in Washington State near Seattle, but it's just rain for you folks in Seattle, snow in the mountains. Quiet day, really is. Nothing too crazy going on. Temperatures compared to averages in this area, it'll be above average for most kind of day, especially more eastern areas of the western U.S. But the Arctic air mass begins to dump in Montana, so bitterly cold air begins to filter in as that next Arctic air mass is going to freeze up the northeast, begins to move in. But it just depends on where you are. It's just not a very eventful day weather-wise out west. So tomorrow, this event I'm going to talk about more tonight. So I'll give it about the same time that I did the icing event today for the Midwest. But tomorrow, guys, ice begins to move into portions. This, is the cold air damming kind of setting up right here where the cold air is entrenched around the mountains. Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, you folks are going to get a brief area of freezing rain before a stout warm nose kicks in to the point where it's above freezing at the surface. But in these areas, as you're getting into the 5 to 7 a.m. time frame, this is all freezing rain. Even, New York, all freezing rain. You got to get, up in these areas before you start to see more sleet and snow. And I don't really think there's going to be much in the way of snow anywhere in these areas. But this is this is around 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow morning. I click a sounding right here, just south of Scranton, right in this area. And, northern New Jersey, too. You're going to get some ice in this. Maryland gets very close to Washington, D.C. I wouldn't be surprised if areas more south get a little bit more ice than what the HRRR is showing. But this is the definition of a warm nose, okay? So surface temperature is below freezing, 28 degrees. That's pretty substantially below freezing for this area. This is 8 a.m. sounding out of southeastern Pennsylvania. You go up in the atmosphere, I would say probably 2,000 to 3,000 feet up in the air. The air temperature rises well above freezing. This is the below freezing line, the 0 degrees Celsius, which is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And so basically, if you start up here, it's cold enough, obviously very cold up there, very moist profiles, so probably some heavier freezing rain, which sometimes doesn't always add up as good as moderate to light freezing rain. But it gets it's snowing, and then the snowfall melts very quickly, and it turns into a liquid form, and then it gets below freezing at the surface, and then it refreezes and turns into freezing rain. And that's why you get freezing rain. You get warm air up in the atmosphere that melts snowflakes. Now, sometimes you can get more so sleet, and that's if that warm nose is very small, or if it has time to refreeze into a sleet pellet before hitting the surface. But that's a time for another day to break down that one of those soundings. But gets into mid to late morning. Finally get this precipitation to move through. But this is going to keep a glaze on the trees for a while, especially areas that struggle to get above freezing. There's an Arctic air mass kind of pushing through to set up the real deep freeze to the northeast. So you're going to see a glaze on the trees all day tomorrow. And just don't drive tomorrow. You got church. There's a way to watch it from home. Don't leave your house in Pennsylvania, New York State, even Maryland. And you look at the temperatures as this precipitation moves through, and temperatures are very cold overnight, and stays into the 20s in certain areas, and barely gets above freezing before temperatures drop like a rock tomorrow night again. But as far as ice accumulations for this area, this is a decent event. I mean, you got widespread areas well above 15th to 20th of an inch. This is getting to the point where tree limbs are going to sag, small tree limbs might snap, a little bit of ice showing up in West Virginia, a little bit of a glaze in areas of Ohio, but it gets very close to the big cities like Boston and New York City. But I think y'all are going to have a little bit more warm air to deal with. I think at most y'all see a glaze, but just north and just west of you guys, northern New Jersey, this is going to be a decent icing event. But the big cities might not get a whole lot of ice from this. But Washington, D.C. is very close to a little bit of a glaze. But these areas of Pennsylvania, y'all are just going to get a flat-out icing event for you guys tomorrow. And I think with cold ground temperatures in certain areas, snowpack, especially in areas of eastern parts of the state, this is going to glaze up very fast. Now we talk about the severe weather threat tomorrow for the deep south. There is a legit threat. Nothing too crazy, but about the same kind of risk as it is today for areas of Texas. And we'll look at the HRRR model for that area. We'll get into tomorrow, which is Sunday. Can't ignore the heavy rain that's going to fall over all this snow in Tennessee and Kentucky. That's just going to make a big slush fest for you guys and probably speed up the melting process for you guys. I mean, go out and enjoy the snow today if you're a big snow fan in Tennessee and Kentucky, because it is going to get washed away and turn into a mud pit for you guys tomorrow morning. It really is. Heavier rain to the north in Kentucky and Tennessee. Chance for severe storms for areas of Alabama and Mississippi tomorrow. This is not going to be a severe weather outbreak, but you could get a tornado warning or two. This energy begins to move in late evening into the overnight hours for Sunday into Monday, and expect a nice wave for these drought areas. They're still in place in the Carolinas of heavier rain to move through anywhere from late afternoon to the evening through overnight hours for Georgia, the Carolinas into your Monday morning. It clears out, and then a big Arctic air mass moves in. I mean, not a big for the southeast, but really for the northeast and mid-Atlantic. But anyways, a cold front reinforces the cold air, sets up for a chilly week next week, at least beginning of the week. So that's all I got, guys. We'll look out west. Even nothing going on for your Sunday, really. Sunday's pretty quiet, and even much more quiet than even Saturday. And as far as temperatures as a whole, pretty chilly day today for most of the country, except if you're in Texas and areas of the southern sections where you got a warm sector in place to set up the boundary for severe weather. Tomorrow, the Arctic air mass begins to plummet through the Midwest and upper Midwest. And then before that Arctic air mass sets up, very warm temperatures. It's going to be a nice day tomorrow before the rain comes in, especially the Carolinas. A little bit of a wedge tries to build in that kind of makes a big-time temperature boundary in the Carolinas. So the Carolinas near North Georgia, it depends on where you are. You could have a chilly day. If you're in southern sections of these regions, it could be a warm day. Then the Arctic air mass moves through, and then it's a different air mass as we move into Monday. We'll talk more about that tonight. Y'all have a blessed day. Have a great weekend. I'll see y'all tonight.